Slender Man is an internet-born eldritch entity that stalks forests, childhood memories, and the collective subconscious of the digital age. There's something holy and horrifying about how he began, as a meme, a joke, a harmless creative exercise on a forum, and yet ended up becoming a digital deity. The Slender Man isn't a monster that crawled from hell. He's the ghost of our collective imagination, born out of Photoshop filters and insomnia. He doesn't chase, he infects. His power isn't in speed or strength. It's in presence. You think about him once, then twice, then suddenly he's standing in the static between your thoughts. He's the angel of corrupted hard drives, the forest god of lost files, the phantom that lurks just behind your reflection on a late-night screen. Slender Man isn't supposed to exist, but humans made him anyway, like children carving gods out of their own nightmares. And he didn't need ancient rituals or sacrifice. He needed attention. He thrives on the slow bleed of imagination turning into obsession. When those two children attacked their friend for him, it wasn't a delusion. It was faith. That's the most terrifying part. He doesn't kill. He convinces. He's a religion with no scripture, only images. Slender Man isn't a story. He's an infection of the collective consciousness, the perfect example of how the internet can summon gods more efficiently than temples ever could. He's still there, behind the trees, behind your screen, waiting for bandwidth and belief. He doesn't move when you see him. You move away, and that's how he wins. Annabelle is a supposedly possessed Raggedy and doll locked behind glass at the Warren Occult Museum in Connecticut. Annabelle isn't scary because she's haunted. She's scary because she's patient. You can stare at her face for hours and feel your pulse start to sync with that stitch smile, like she's smiling for you, not at you. They say she's possessed by a demon, but I think that's just the human ego trying to make sense of being afraid of a toy. She's made of cotton and nostalgia, yet she radiates the kind of energy you feel in funeral homes and children's hospitals, something that pretends to be innocent but never quite gets it right. The glass case isn't a prison. It's a warning label. Do not tap. Do not challenge. Do not stare too long. But people do, because we love tempting our fear. That's why we go to museums of death and crime. It's why we make movies about her, sequels about her, fan art of her. Every image we create is a prayer, except the god in question is made of stuffing. Annabelle doesn't move on camera because she doesn't have to. She moves when you remember her. She doesn't need possession when she already has attention. The Warrens called her dangerous, but maybe she's just a mirror, a perfect reflection of human obsession, our need to humanize horror, to trap it behind glass and pretend we've contained it. She's not cursed. We are, because even now, you're picturing her in the dark, behind that cracked display case, smiling to the reflection of your own face. The rake is a humanoid creature described in internet lore as a pale, emaciated being that watches his victims while they sleep. The rake doesn't feel like fiction. He feels like a memory of something you shouldn't remember, like you woke up one night, saw him crouching at the end of your bed, and your brain quietly deleted the footage for your own protection. He's not a monster that appears. He's one that returns. The rake crawled out of the same digital swamp that birthed Slender Man, but he's older somehow, more primal. He's the echo of every nightmare where something is in your room, but you can't move. Sleep paralysis dressed in human skin. His eyes don't glow, they absorb. Every shadow that touches him seems to dissolve like water down a drain. People claim to see him on home security footage, for limbs too long, head tilted like he's trying to recognize you. The rake isn't a beast that hunts. He observes. He waits for you to blink, so he can rewrite the moment when your eyes open again. What if he's not real at all, but a side effect of modern loneliness? The rake doesn't attack. He visits. He kneels beside the bed like an exhausted parent. His presence is intimate, almost affectionate, in the same way a scalpel is intimate when it slides across skin. There's no scream when he arrives, no blood-curdling noise, just breathing, close enough that it could be yours. If Slender Man is a god of paranoia, the rake is its priest, soft-spoken, skeletal, and infinitely patient. You don't run from him. You wake up and pretend he wasn't there. And that's exactly how he wins. The Dybbuk box is a wine cabinet said to contain a restless Jewish spirit known as a Dybbuk, an entity that clings to human souls and refuses to leave. The story begins with eBay, which feels wrong already. A cursed antique sold like used furniture. Someone bought it, opened it, and claimed their house started bleeding bad luck. Lights flickering, pets dying, shadows whispering names that weren't theirs. It reads like a warning disguised as a transaction receipt. The Dybbuk box doesn't scream or float or chase. It infects. It's an antique with trauma soaked into its grain, a relic that feeds on curiosity, the same instinct that makes people click by now on something labeled Do Not Open. Every owner becomes another entry in its obituary list. Strange illnesses, nightmares, electronics dying for no reason. The kind of coincidences skeptics call psychosomatic, but believers call proof. But maybe the true horror isn't in the spirit. It's in the concept of containment. The arrogance of thinking you can box grief, guilt, or evil, slap a lock on it, and sell it online. The Dybbuk box isn't cursed. It's just honest. It tells us that pain never stays buried. It seeps, travels, attaches. They say Zach Bagans keeps it sealed in his museum, surrounded by other artifacts of darkness. But glass and locks are just symbols. Fear doesn't need oxygen. And maybe, just maybe, that thing inside doesn't want to escape. Maybe it's waiting for someone to believe again, so it can remember what it felt like to live. Because belief is the key, and curiosity is the hand that always turns it. Robert the doll is a cursed, century-old toy said to bring misfortune to anyone who disrespects or photographs him without permission. Robert sits quietly in a glass case in Key West, Florida, his sailor suit immaculate, his eyes black beads of eternity, and his expression something between amusement and hunger. Tourists come from all over to take his picture, forgetting that you're supposed to ask first. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Asking permission from a doll. But Robert doesn't care whether you believe. He cares whether you remember the rules. They say he moves, laughs, changes facial expressions. But what he really does is listen. His story began with a little boy named Eugene Otto, who blamed every disaster on the doll. Robert did it. A child scapegoat turned supernatural. When the boy grew up, the doll stayed, watching, absorbing, waiting. Letters pour into museum every week. Apologies from people who mocked him, who felt cursed afterward. Car crashes, illnesses, marriages crumbling. Emails typed at 3 a.m. in desperation. I'm sorry, Robert. Please forgive me. He's the only influencer who doesn't need Wi-Fi to ruin your life. Robert isn't just a relic of superstition. He's proof that respect, real primal respect, still exists. The kind that makes us whisper when walking past graves. The kind that makes your stomach, not when you feel watched. He doesn't punish. He reminds. Reminds you that objects remember, that emotion stains, that mockery always comes home. And if you ever find yourself in front of him, camera in hand, just remember the one rule. Ask first. Because sometimes manners are the only thing keeping you safe from something that still hears you whisper. Zozo is a malevolent spirit said to reveal itself during Ouija board sessions, spelling its name repeatedly before unleashing chaos. The first time you hear about Zozo, it feels like a rumor, a campfire ghost story for teenagers who think cardboard letters can open portals. But then the pattern starts repeating. Across continents, across decades, across countless trembling hands moving across a wooden board that shouldn't move at all. Z-O-Z-O, over and over, like a heartbeat in Morse code, like a name that doesn't want to be remembered, but refuses to be forgotten. People say he mimics voices, lies, manipulates. He promises answers and delivers madness. He's the clickbait of the spirit world. Hooks you with curiosity, devours you with performance. And what's wild is that no one agrees on what he is. Demon? Trickster? Parasite? Maybe he's just the echo of human expectation. When people sit around a Ouija board, hearts racing, they summon their own fear. Zozo is the brand name of that energy, the marketing campaign for spiritual stupidity. But if you listen to recordings, real ones, you hear something unsettling. The planchette doesn't just move. It jerks. It slams between letters like it's impatient. People's voices change, growling like radio static. Phones glitch, lights flicker, and laughter echoes from nowhere. Maybe Zozo isn't one entity at all. Maybe he's a pattern, like a virus that needs belief to replicate. Every time someone says his name, every time someone dares to test him, they feed him. You can close the board, say goodbye, burn it, bury it. It doesn't matter. Once Zozo knows your name, he doesn't leave. He lingers in the corner of your thoughts, whispering like an uninstalled app that still drains your battery. The Mothman is a winged humanoid creature reported in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, during the 1960s, often seen before tragedy strikes. The Mothman doesn't attack. He warns, which is somehow worse, because what are you supposed to do with a prophecy you can't understand? He shows up in the corner of your headlights, his eyes glowing red like brake lights on an empty highway. You blink, he's gone, but the accident hasn't happened yet. In 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed, killing 46 people. Witnesses claimed they saw him days before. The flutter of wings, the glowing eyes in the mist. Since then, he's been spotted before disasters worldwide. Maybe he's an omen. Maybe he's guilt with feathers. He's not a monster, not exactly. He's a pattern in chaos, a physical embodiment of dread. People describe him differently. Some say he's humanoid, others insectoid, some even angelic. Maybe that's because you don't really see the Mothman. You interpret him. Your brain can't process him cleanly, so it translates fear into anatomy. The Mothman doesn't speak, but his silence screams premonition. He's the shape of tragedy before it happens. And maybe that's the real curse. Seeing him means you're in the prologue of disaster, watching destiny roll toward you like a freight train. He's empathy turned toxic, compassion that can't interfere. Imagine watching humanity destroy itself over and over, unable to warn them in a language they understand. Maybe that's what being the Mothman feels like, divine frustration. Or maybe he's not real at all, just a reflection of headlights on the fog, an accident of physics that became myth. But try telling that to the people who saw him and can't sleep anymore. Try convincing yourself that red eyes in the dark mean nothing. The black-eyed children are mysterious pale figures, usually appearing as kids with completely black eyes, who beg to be let into homes or cars at night. It always starts the same way, a knock at the door late at night. You open a crack, and there they are, two kids, maybe 10 or 12 years old. Their voices are polite. Too polite. Can we come in? Our parents are on the way. You want to help. You always want to help, until you see their eyes. Completely black. No whites, no pupils. Just void. A darkness that feels sentient. The stories say once you notice their eyes, it's too late. They start insisting, pressing closer, their politeness cracking like porcelain. Please, let us in. Their words hit your skull like echoes in a hollow church. People who let them in never tell the story themselves. We only hear it secondhand, from neighbors who swear they saw something wrong with the lights that night. Some say they're vampires. Others say extraterrestrials wearing human skin. Personally, I think they're metaphors for guilt. The part of you that knocks when you've done something terrible, asking for entry. That innocent voice saying, let me in, I only want to talk. There's a detail most people forget. They can't enter without permission. And isn't that just like every kind of evil? It always waits for consent, even when that consent comes from curiosity. The black-eyed children don't break in, they're invited. They don't steal souls, they borrow them. And afterward, all that's left is a memory of politeness, the echo of a knock that never should have been answered. If you ever hear one, no matter how soft, how human it sounds, do not open the door. The universe doesn't send children at midnight. It sends warnings wearing children's faces. La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, is a Latin American ghost who mourns her drowned children and haunts those who hear her cries near rivers or lakes. You hear her before you see her, soft weeping, like someone mourning decades too late. It's the kind of sound that doesn't echo. It absorbs the silence around it. People say if you hear her cry close, she's far away. And if you hear her from far away, she's standing right behind you. La Llorona isn't just a ghost. She's an ecosystem of grief. Her story changes depending on who tells it. Some say she drowned her children in rage. Others say it was despair. Either way, she'd been crying ever since, searching for souls to replace what she lost. But what if that's not punishment? What if that's addiction? What if sorrow became her oxygen? You can feel her in every bad decision you've ever made that you can't undo. She's the guilt that follows you into adulthood, wearing the perfume of nostalgia. A mother who became myth because pain demands witnesses. People in Mexico still say she walks the rivers, her veil dragging through the mud. Parents warn their kids, don't go near the water or La Llorona will take you. But the truth is, she already has. She doesn't steal children. She steals innocence. And sometimes, if you listen near still water, you'll hear her voice, not screaming, not wailing, but whisper your own regrets back to you. Because that's what she really is. Every tear you never allowed yourself to cry. Every part of you that still begs for forgiveness long after it stopped mattering. La Llorona doesn't hunt the living. She hunts the guilty. And that means she'll never run out of prey. The Smiling Man is an urban legend about a pale, grinning figure who stalks people at night, often dancing erratically under streetlights. There's something unnatural about joy in the wrong context. Smiling in a church at a funeral, laughing during a panic attack, grinning under a flickering streetlight at 2 a.m. It warps the universe, even if just for a second. The Smiling Man exists in that exact distortion. He's not the opposite of fear. He's what happens when fear starts enjoying itself. Picture this. You're walking home alone. The air feels thinner than usual, like reality itself forgot to breathe. The city's asleep or pretending to be. Somewhere far away, a car door slams. You pass one more block, and there he is, a man, tall and pale, standing under the only working streetlight. He's dressed like he's been to a party that never ended. His suit's wrinkled, his shoes too shiny, and his head tilted too far to the side, as if gravity stopped applying. And he's smiling. Not a kind smile. Not a human one. The kind that doesn't belong to a face at all. It belongs to a concept. At first, you think he's just standing there. But then he moves. Not toward you, not away, just around, like gravity has lost patience with him. He twirls, stumbles, bows, glides. His dance has no rhythm, but it's perfectly synchronized with the flicker of the light. Each blink of darkness is a skipped frame, and when the light comes back, he's closer. That's when your heart starts translating confusion into fear. You tell yourself it's fine. Maybe he's drunk, high, unwell. Maybe he's just some guy having a breakdown. The problem is, the smile doesn't move with the rest of his face. It's attached, like it was carved in. You cross the street. He stops dancing. The silence between you thickens, like the city itself is watching. You don't want to run because that would make it real, but your feet start to move faster anyway. You tell yourself not to look back, but you do. He's gone. Or maybe not gone. Maybe he's just behind something. Maybe the world turned one frame ahead of schedule, and you didn't. The Smiling Man doesn't kill people. At least, not in the traditional sense. He kills normalcy. You see him once, and the night never feels the same again. You start noticing the cracks, the way lampposts hum too loudly, how shadows move when they shouldn't, how laughter in crowds sounds like static. You start to understand that the world runs on fragile choreography, and he's the one dancer who never learned the steps. People online try to rationalize him. They say he's an urban myth from creepypasta forums, a collective hallucination born of late-night anxiety. But that's the same excuse humans always use when something almost makes sense. The Smiling Man isn't content with being imaginary. He's a patron saint of discomfort. Proof that not all horror needs claws or teeth. Some just need the wrong smile at the wrong time. There's a version of the story where he follows someone home. The victim locks the door, turns off the lights, breathes in silence. Then comes a faint sound from outside, shoes scraping asphalt. Tap, 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 like a rhythm, like footsteps pretending to be music. They peek through the blinds. He's across the street now, standing in the same pool of yellow light, dancing again. Slowly, beautifully, horribly, he raises one hand and waves, not like a threat, but like an old friend acknowledging recognition. The victim hides, curls up in the dark, heart thudding against ribs that suddenly feel too fragile. Minutes pass. Hours. They check again. He's gone. But the next morning, there are footprints outside, perfectly spaced, circling the house, over and over. No beginning, no end. What does he want? That's the part that drives people insane. He doesn't speak, doesn't attack, doesn't even touch. He just exists, and existing alone is offensive enough. The human mind craves meaning, but he denies it. Every twitch of his limbs screams mockery. He dances not for joy, but for cruelty, a pantomime of laughter that makes you question whether the universe itself might be laughing at you, too. Maybe that's his purpose. To remind you that fear doesn't always announce itself with roars or claws. Sometimes it smiles, sometimes it pirouettes, sometimes it hums an off-key tune as you quicken your pace down an empty street. And maybe, just maybe, he's not real at all. Maybe he's a metaphor for our era, a world smiling while everything quietly burns. The illusion of happiness twitching under fluorescent lights, pretending not to see the decay creeping in at the edges. He's the co-worker who never blinks, the stranger who holds eye contact too long, the mirror that catches you smiling when you didn't mean to, the quiet realization that maybe, deep down, you like being scared, because it's the only time you still feel alive. The smiling man is every false grin we've ever worn survive. Every time we said, "I'm fine," while something inside us danced in circles, frantic and unhinged. Maybe that's why his grin feels so familiar, because part of us recognizes it. So if you ever find yourself walking home under a flickering streetlight, and you see someone moving just a little too joyfully in the dark, don't smile back, don't wave, don't blink, just keep walking, because the moment you acknowledge him, you're part of the performance, and he always finishes the dance.